Dr. Yusuf, I'd like to ask straight up, what were you expecting? 150 basis points seems to me like a tall order.
Yes, Tolu is. I'm actually shocked. I'm here to recover from the shock of the announcement, because really this is going to hit a lot of investors, and it's going to hit them very, very hard, because the situation is already extremely very, very difficult, particularly because of issues of forex scarcity, issues of forex depreciation, issues of the cost of AGO, that is diesel, even cost of electricity. Then you already have consumers whose purchasing power has been weakened. I don't quite agree with the position of the CBN on this, because this is making life more difficult for those who are struggling to continue to be in business. And as far as inflation is concerned, I don't agree with the CBN that this is going to impact on inflation. Certainly not. Because it is the drivers of inflation that will determine whether this factor is a key driver or not. This is not the challenge you are faced with inflation. It's not about liquidity. The only component of liquidity that you can talk about is liquidity coming directly from the CBN itself. That's the ways and means. That's the most impactful component of liquidity that you should be talking about. And ways and means is not coming from the commercial banks. It's coming directly from the CBN itself. Credit, total credit to private sector as a percentage of credit to private sector in this economy, or credit as a private sector credit as a percentage of GDP in this economy is one of the lowest. It's about 12%. In South Africa, it's over 100%. In the United States, over 200%. Why am I saying this? This is to underscore the fact that the linkage in terms of credit to the private sector is extremely weak. So there's a limit to which monetary instruments can influence behavior in the private sector. So this issue of increasing MPR, tightening the CRR, is going to just make life difficult unnecessarily.
The CBN governor...
It will not achieve much.
Dr. Yusuf,
yes.
The CBN governor mentioned that for inflation being at 20.52%, I beg your pardon, at the moment, and MPR still at 15.5%, he says we are still even behind, that we should be far ahead of, almost close to inflation figures. So he's saying that he cannot even promise that if inflation continues to increase, he's saying something like they might continue to increase this rate. What will happen to businesses? You already talked about investors now.
No, the thing is that this will do a lot more damage to this economy. That is my own take. And that is even the position of the World Bank, advising all the CBN central banks across the world about the need to be very cautious in the way they increase the interest rates. It's even more so here in Nigeria. Because, okay, we have seen a review of interest rate in the last two MPC meetings before this one. At first, we had the 150 basis points. We had the 100 basis points, which pushed the MPR to 14%. What has happened to inflation between then and now? If this instrument of monetary policy is any significant factor in moderating inflation. Has inflation come down? If anything, inflation has been going up. Now we are coming with even a much tougher position by another 150 basis points, pushing MPR to 15.5%. So all the few investors that are indebted to the banks, I can tell you from tomorrow, even from today, they'll be getting advice from their banks that interest rate has gone up. I know of some SMEs who complain that as a result of the last MPR review, the interest rate has gone up to 30%. And the way we are now, even prime lending rate will be getting close to 25%. And yet people are struggling with foreign exchange. And the CBI is not even talking about the forex problem at all. It's talking about speculators. Is it not the policy that is creating speculation in the market? So I don't understand. This is going to hurt the economy. It's going to hurt investment, and it's not likely to have any significant impact on inflation.
No, because our time has been...
people should go to I&E window. How much can you get in I&E window? Investors have been saying it. They can even get up to 20% of their demand in the I&E window. So what do you want them to do?
Dr. Yusuf, our time is clearly far spent because the central bank governor stayed, answering questions. But let's wrap up on this note. The CRR at 32.5%, and they're saying that the banks must comply with this. That if they don't, the central bank is saying they will debit the banks. And they're saying this will definitely have a positive impact if the banks really comply. I'd like your reaction to that as we wrap up the show.
You see, my own reaction is that our regulators to at least show some courtesy to people who are in business, the companies that they are regulating. Because the kind of language sometimes that we hear from our regulators is not good for the investment environment. These are businesses that are owned by shareholders, that are being managed by professionals. I mean, we're not in a military setting. So generally, I think our regulators should be more cautious in the way they go about, relating with companies and investors in the economy. I mean, this is just coming now, and look at the way the CBN was talking that by tomorrow they will debit account and so on. Whoever foresaw this kind of thing, So I don't think this approach to economic governance is the best. I think it can be a lot more better, and we need to show courtesy to those who are investors in this economy, because they are the people who are making the economy work. They are the people creating the jobs. So the fact that someone is a regulator does not mean that you just talk down on investors in the economy. It should not be that way. There should be mutual respect.
All right, there's a good way to live. I must thank you, Dr. Muda Yusuf. We need to have more time to talk about this subject of discourse. It's very important as it means a lot to Nigerian economy. We'll definitely get back and see how we can talk more around this new development from the CBN. Dr. Muda Yusuf is the Chief Executive Officer of the Center for Promotion of Private Enterprises there, bearing his mind on this recent move by the CBN. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Well, that's our show today. Thank you so much for being a part of it. I'll see you tomorrow, same time.